Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of The Recap Show.
This year, we were joined by some of the best guests ever, and were able to have some of the most impactful conversations.
So we decided to take our favorite moments and make a few episodes with the best of Season 3.
Enjoy the show.
Why do you still play, and what has allowed you to persevere and endure what is an incredible career that you have become the best goalkeeper in the world, one of the best goalkeepers ever on the best team in the world, right? But you've had a lot of setbacks and injuries and moments that were hard. And I think knowing you so well, it's like always been on the brink of too much.
Yeah.
And you've always been able to get back on the horse and go again and rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things I've learned to love about sports in general, but like being part of the national team, being specifically the national team, because I think you learn a little bit more about people's stories. And I think the unique thing about you look at every, 2015, 2019, 2023, I think it was, you look around the group of the room and you know each person's story together, and it's like such a unique individual journey, but then you have this like collective goal that you're also trying to accomplish. And I think that is also really inspiring to see how other people have come up and like what other people have gone through. And I think it's bonding as well. And I think we all have this like drive to win, to do that. And I think in 2015, 2016, I was on the team, didn't play. And I was like, I want to play. I want to like be on the field and contribute in a different way. And then I think 2019 and then 2021, I got to play. Yeah. And we had such a magical 2019. I think I look back on that team and that summer, and it was like literally one of the most incredible experiences ever. And then I think after 2021, which was supposed to be 2020, getting hurt, I was like, I can't go out like this. I was like, this isn't, I was like, I want to come back. I want to come back from an injury. I want to prove that I can get back on the field. And there was just like each year, I've literally been like living my life 1 year at a time for the last probably 5 or so years. But there's like always like something motivating. There's like, I always have these like end of year aha moments of like clarity to keep going. And I think coming into this past year as well, there was so much transition, I think, in watching so many people retire and get these send-offs and get like all these things and move on to the next things. And part of why I love watching my friends like go on and do such cool things. Like you guys with this show, watching, Sam Ewis, the stuff that she does, and Pino's doing all the extra stuff. Like it's really fun to watch the transition from what people are doing from sport. But then I also felt like with the group that we had, with the experiences that I've had and gone through, I like felt in my heart that I had like this unique experience and journey to share with this current team, and that I could really help in the transition of where we're trying to get to. And with new coaches coming in and so many new players and players retiring and players, different things. And I mean, I think back, I'm like, anything you could possibly imagine going through in a career, like I've done it all.
Yeah.
And I think that it was like, I kind of had this like, okay, if I can be a little bit more vulnerable, like with the group, with the players, with teammates that I haven't grown up with, that are all very much younger than me, if I can kind of buy into that and help, I said that was something that would like make me feel really fulfilled to be part of that journey and part of this Olympic experience.
You are one of the most loved players on the U.S. Women's National team.
Thank you.
Like, well, I mean, we love you too.
By us.
I know.
Honestly, by the world. And we were like, what is it about Ali Krieger that that folks just like literally they adore you. They would go to war for you. They're like, this is my chick. I'm riding or dying with Ali Krieger.
And I think we've recently seen a lot of that too, and the support, and just even retiring and through, this past year, it's been eye-opening to just me personally, because you don't really realize how often you really impact people's lives in such a positive way. And we all signed up just to play football, right? And just like show up and win championships and play at the highest level and have fun and love what we do and enjoy each other's company and be a part of a team, be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And you don't necessarily through that journey realize how many people you really touch. And I think this past year with me retiring and just everything that I've been through personally, I was so grateful that everybody just kind of, I don't know, comforted me and supported me through a very difficult time. And on top of that, retiring is like, you're so scared of the next transition and the next phase. But I felt so much love that it might have just been a little bit easier for me to move into the next, the next phase. And it's so rewarding to get to this point, knowing how much you've impacted people in such a happy, positive way. And throughout the years, I tried to always connect with individuals at the games and fans, and really, I know part of it was to get people back in the seats because we needed them. We needed not only their money or support, but like we needed fans in the seats to be able to win.
Yeah.
And feel motivated to do that. And so that was one side of it. But then also it's like, it's nice to just feel human when you're having an interaction with somebody and a conversation and a connection where you're sharing the same passion for the beautiful game. And obviously you meet a lot of people along the way that just personally have, struggled, but football brings happiness to them. And we can kind of share that moment. And so I feel like I've tried to connect with a lot of, fans and supporters over the years and
but you're
really be like a human being.
Yeah, you're so interesting because you've got one part of your story that is really human in that it has not always been easy for you and it's been very public. And I think people can relate to that. And I want to get into all the stories. That's what today's about.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side where you're like such an icon. And when we were even prepping for this, we're like, what does everyone love about Allie? It's because you're such an icon. It's because like the people love you. They want to be you. They want to dress like you. And so you've balanced like this like confident living your best life with like the human touch. And that's so special.
Talk to us about like kind of what you referenced as the hardest time of your career, and I think it kind of really shapes like you as a person and why you're so respected as a footballer.
So I was 29 I think in the middle of COVID, and through no family history got a random diagnosis of breast cancer, stage 1, and it was by far the biggest shock of my life. Like there's no doubt about it, but I always give like unbelievable thanks and credit to teammates in Arsenal that kind of, they genuinely got me through it. Like I can't even emphasize that enough, like in terms of the healthcare, all the appointments, because I was away from friends, I was away from family, and it was beyond difficult,
if you don't mind me asking, how did you find out, or why did you even have some sort of like medical exam?
To be honest, I just naturally found a lump, like through self-check, or when you're just just in the shower. And I think we can all say we're so lucky to be in a position where we have full-time doctors when we go into work every day, because that's not normal. And I don't know, I just felt like something wasn't right. And I think as soon as you feel something that's not right, that's kind of the biggest sign you can have. Like it definitely felt abnormal, it definitely felt like hard. So I went straight to the doctor, and again, credit to her, like she was just like, I don't like lumps, I'm referring you straight away. And that was difficult as well though, because you're kind of like, as an athlete, you're so used to getting hurt
through,
or that, getting hurt, getting a scan, figuring out what it is, and then return to play is kind of organized, right? Like when you go through something health wise, I was completely uneducated on, types of cancer, testing, mammograms, what it all meant. And I think that's what kind of led to the whole sort of, right, I need to talk about this whenever I'm ready, because it was just, that was the part I was most frustrated about. And it was all just one big learning curve and beyond overwhelming.
Were you able to play through your process, or did
Yeah.
you take time off?
Yeah, so I took a little bit of time off, but initially I remember getting diagnosed on the Thursday, played against Brighton on the Sunday,
Wow.
scored.
You know what's so crazy?
I love that for you.
That's incredible. And what's so crazy about that is like you can see it so much. You know, like those moments that like
Thursday,
Thursday,
Yeah.
Brighton
Yeah.
scored. It's like it's just a part of those big moments like in our lives that we see like so vividly, right?
I think back now and I'm like, it is so vivid, exactly what you're saying. Like, I remember going through all these different tests and saying to the girls, like, you know, I'm like kind of nervous about it. Like, I don't really know, because honestly, until the doctor said, yeah, this is what it is, genuinely not for 1 minute did I think that was what it was going to be. And then obviously it was COVID. Yeah. So I'd spoken to my manager, it was Joel Montemurro at the time. And I was like, it's not good. And I didn't know how to tell the girls. So he was like a second dad throughout that. Like, honestly, like, cannot fault the guy. He was unbelievable. Shout out, Joe. And he told all the girls, like, in groups, and like, they couldn't hug me because of COVID.
Oh,
so it was just like,
my Lord.
It was crazy. Like, so, but then weirdly enough, that weekend I played, scored, and like that picture of us all hugging was genuinely like, it's up there with one of my favourite memories on the field, because that was just the epitome of like a team coming together at that point to support someone. And like, I remember people asking, because no one knew, like I hadn't announced it, but people were like, that celebration was like a bit much, you know, too much. And but no one knew that that's what was happening. Yeah. And it was just a really lovely, it's one of my favorite pictures.
I want to just zoom in for a second, because this is like so beautiful. So the girls on your team find out, and the protocol is that you can't have any physical contact unless you're on the field, right? Yeah. So then that 3 days goes by, and then like both celebrating like you scoring, but also like the perseverance and like the moment that must have been so overwhelming, but actually like it's a loophole in the COVID protocol.
Yeah. I was like, I have to score to
get hugged.
It's the best motivation ever to score a goal.
We talked a lot about kind of the collective action of like women like actually coming together and just realizing like we all have like shared stories, and now we have shared language, and now we have shared tools to like actually like rise up and kind of create our own sports, our own narrative. But like we also need the men.
Yeah.
And
1000%.
I think that something really special that you also did, Sid, just from you playing and being excellent at what you were doing, like you made friends with Kobe Bryant because he had girls that I'm sure he looked at the U.S. Women's National Team and was like, I want my daughters to have someone to look up to that's excellent athlete.
I have a crazy story, actually, because I talked to Kobe for the first time heading into the 2012 Olympics.
Wow.
I got an email that basically was like, hey, I'm a huge fan of you, and I would love my daughters to meet you. It's nice to have someone who looks like them. And I'm like reading this. We were away. I think we were at like Algarve or something. And we were away, and I'm like, who is this? And then at the bottom, it's like Kobe Bryant.
At the bottom, you like read the whole email, like not knowing.
Not knowing.
What if
and
you never
then
made
I was
it to
like,
the bottom?
And I was like,
did he not hit all the time? What was the subject line?
And I was like, I don't remember. But I just remember being like, no way. And I remember like calling my mom and being like, Mom, Kobe Bryant like emailed me.
Yeah.
And ever since then, we just like, he was like an amazing mentor to me. And, you know, I loved his kids. I love his family. And then we just became like so close.
Yeah,
so
but
that's how that happened.
Yeah, that is so crazy. But to be fair, like Kobe, in my opinion, was the first
100%
big men's athlete that I knew that paid attention to women's sports. I remember him coming to the U.S. Women's National Team a bunch of times, and that attention, him respecting women's athletes, has completely changed
100%.
the narrative. And we talk about that all the time, like men's part in this, and Kobe Bryant was a pioneer of that too.
100%. Yes, he was number one. He was the first big one who really ever did it.
Yeah.
You know, and he made it huge. He was the first one to ever wear that orange WNBA sweater. And like, it's amazing. And he did that because he had daughters. And I'm like, I think about all of the professional athletes, all the men who have daughters. I'm like, you got to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
You got to do a little bit more. You got to come to play a little bit.
Yeah. So this was during a time when the NWSL in general has undergone many allegations and reports of sexual harassment, misconduct, racist and sexist remarks, sexual, verbal, and emotional abuse, just to name a few. Sally Yates, who did the investigation at the time after stories had broken, many of them were your stories that broke about the abuse in the NWSL. She wrote that abuse in the NWSL is rooted in a deeper culture in women's soccer, beginning in youth leagues that normalize verbally abusive coaching and blurred boundaries between coaches and players. Now, in 2021, 5 out of 10 coaches were fired or stepped down due to misconduct allegations. Before the investigation, there were no written rules to reprimand these coaches and other people of authority in the NWSL for misconduct for the first 9 years of the league. Meg, you broke the abuse story in the NWSL, or multiple stories. Part of it was part of breaking the stories. Can you take us back to the first thought that you had when you realized that there was abuse going on in the league?
I mean, I think part of what finding out the depth is everything kind of reassembles in your brain of like, oh, I saw you start putting pieces together in a way that you haven't, because again, coming out of Boston, before I moved to New York City, I don't know if you remember where the Breakers used to play on that like tiny field on the Harvard campus, not in the stadium, but like, so we were right above the coaches because there was no press box. It didn't exist. And so you could hear everything. And so I remember thinking like, oh yeah, okay, like I've heard some things and suddenly like things are making a little more sense, right? But to, I think, get the full depth of what was happening in, Portland in 2015, but also before that was Sinead Farley and her story. I mean, that first day I just remembered honestly just sitting in shock, trying to like grapple with how big it was and knowing, okay, I'm not an investigative reporter by trade. Like, let's just also put it in context of like, I studied literature in college. I have fortunately like been in newsrooms where I have like learned a lot of these skills on the fly. But again, a lot of us in these spaces are coming from sort of learning on the job. So fortunately, we did have Katie Strang, who's an investigative reporter at The Athletic, who is also on that byline of the main story that we wrote, was massively, massively helpful, not just in terms of like getting a lot of the smaller details of an investigation correct, but also like truly emotionally supporting me and like walking me through the beats of like, you're going to be really mad some days, you're going to be really sad some days, you're going to feel like you're going to puke, like your body's going to physically react to reporting this story. So I think that's just really important. Oh yeah, the day before that story dropped, I woke up, and I've told this story before, but like I was brushing my teeth and I nearly like threw up into the sink because I was so nervous about having it published. And this was also after like there was a whole rumor that went around like a couple weeks before that I had been bought off by an owner to not have it published. Like there was a lot of pieces to this story, to say the least.
Was there any truth to that?
Nope. We hadn't even had a conversation with that owner. So it was very interesting, to say the least, of like, and I'm hearing this stuff very secondhand too, of like, hey, I got this call about this. And anyway, but yeah, early, it was really just, I think the first step was really just listening to the stories and sitting with them and understanding, okay, like I've got to sit in this for a bit and try to figure out how do we make sure that we can report this as well as humanly possible.
And you said that took how long?
So first call I do think was in May, and then the story ran September 30th.
Wow.
2021.
Wow. And I in all seriousness, like that's why when I say like, oh, Meg, you're like a gal, because I think until you've experienced the things that we have in this generation of of sport and, you know, even the development of it, that like unless you've been like brushing your teeth wanting to puke because of what the things that you've either personally experienced or been around in this league, like you don't get it. You are a 3-time gold medalist. Like
3.
like you
Yeah.
every Olympics that you
I
played
mean, it
in,
doesn't just happen. I'm kidding.
you won. I know. That's what I'm
It feels
realizing.
like it, but
It
Was there
doesn't just
anybody
happen.
else?
yeah.
I think it's like
Hale.
I think you can probably count it on one hand.
I think
Hale.
no. Who else? Piercy. Piercy's had more.
More
No.
gold medals?
No, you're right. 3. She's at 3.
I
So,
mean,
yeah, there's a
3's
couple of
over
us.
12
I mean,
years. It's
yeah,
a
that's
long
crazy.
time
That
to
is
be at the
crazy.
top.
And I mean, when you first go, you're like, this is my one and only. And then
Totally.
you're like, okay. But every Olympics was so different.
Yeah.
So different. And, you know, the first one's with the 99ers and it's their last tournament. And
Yeah.
you're like, okay, we're doing it for them. And then, you know, 8 comes and Abby goes down in the last game. And we're like, okay, well, she scored every single one of our goals. What
Yep.
are we going to do now? And you see Angela
Angie
Hookleys,
Hookleys. Oh
who
my
comes in
gosh.
and Tarp and all these players that stand up and
Yeah.
like, I mean, we had so many players that scored in that tournament.
Yeah.
And then, you know, 12 is just so different. It was London, but I got hurt in the first 15 minutes of the game. Didn't play again
gosh.
until
Yep.
the final.
Oh
Yeah.
my
So
gosh.
like weird for me as an individual, but like
Yeah.
also there cheering the team on and who's playing great. And it was just what a great tournament that was. That was the sad one though, because I really wanted to play in some of those stadiums.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
iconic.
Oh my gosh,
So
iconic
iconic.
stadiums, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
why couldn't I play?
So you won gold every Olympics you were in.
Yeah,
I mean,
All you know is gold.
I was
all I
gonna
know
say,
is
I
gold.
feel like we should just call
well, then
this
you have
like
the World Cup, and you're like, dang it, missed again. Dang it, missed again. Well, you guys, it's like, oh, 2. Okay, I got
Yeah,
you.
we were 2 for 2.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm 2 for 2. You're 2 for 3.
yeah.
Yeah. See,
Sorry about that.
It's all right. You know,
Right?
you live, you learn.
Well, it's funny because you said you were coaching not just to win, you know, coaching people, but you still won a lot. You were coach of the year. You won the Shield. You know, first year an expansion team to ever make the playoffs, you know, in their first year, like just a lot of like win. You won a cup even the first game of the season this year, right? So I would say in terms of results and achievements, you came to the US
Yeah.
and you did a lot of winning.
Yeah.
You did a lot of what we love here.
Yeah.
And then midway through the season, what I think was really shocking to all of us and just seemed
Shocking.
fast and confusing was obviously you were let go by San Diego. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, it was fast and quite shocking for me personally too. We played a 3-game week on the road. I think we played Washington, Gotham, Houston. I had flown home for personal reasons. On landing, I found out I'd lost my job. Obviously, with that comes challenges because it's not just me, it's my family too, you know, and unfortunately it terminated our visas with immediate effect and just left us with challenges as a family from there. So
That's
Yeah.
just so insane.
It
That is
was-
so insane.
it was tough, really tough, like personally, professionally. Obviously,
So were you with your family in England?
I wasn't, no.
So they were in San Diego.
They were in England, but in a separate location. So I actually wasn't with them, unfortunately.
But like all your stuff was still in.
Yeah, everything was here. We were there. So that obviously provided us with challenges. I was disappointed. You know, it's the first time I've lost my job.
Did you get to speak to the players?
No.
Wow.
No, unfortunately not, because I couldn't get back.
I mean, I just want to say this to us. When we heard that you had gone fired, like I would have been like, you're joking. Like you had so much success. Like there was just no reason. Like you could have gone on and had a losing season for the whole entire season, and I still would have said she's the right person for the job. Like absolutely. So I just like, for me, it like the math doesn't math on your firing, and like I'm upset about it because I think for the NWSL too, and a marketplace like San Diego that stood for a lot of the things that we cheer for, for me, that isn't like to lose you was not okay in our league. Like obviously you'll be
Listen, I'm super proud of like what we achieved as a club. Like first season, we made the semi-final of a playoff, like as an expansion team. Like we had
defender of the year, goalkeeper of the year, like rookie of the year. Like we developed players and people, you know, like we got people like Naomi made her first cap. Taylor Corniak made her first cap. Like these are proud moments for us as a club. Second year, I'm going to say we won the league because that's what it's called.
Yeah.
And obviously we didn't progress past the semi-final, which was disappointing for us as a club. I think we could have done better in that moment. Then we win the cup, and then, you know, we went 5 draws, 2 losses, and results were the reason why, unfortunately, I was let go. So, yeah, like, I value my experiences at San Diego greatly. Like I worked with some incredible people, players. I learned so much. The league is incredible. It really is.
You love it? You're hooked?
I love it. It's way more stressful than England. Like you're not going to sit there comfortably on any game.
Yeah.
Like there was
Well,
games,
when you're sitting on a cooler, it can't be very comfortable.
it's more comfortable for my back than standing up. So it was like, you know, in England you could play certain teams and you'd be like, oh yeah, we're 2, 3, 4, we're comfortable, we've got control. That just doesn't happen here. Even at 2-0, you're like, we got to make sure.
Do you like that as a coach?
No, I hate it. I'm like, can we keep control of the ball? Can we keep possession? Can we possess the balls even when we're 2-0 up? So we just kill the game with possession. Like, no. And it's super stressful. It's the hardest league to work in the world because of the travel and the amount of games. You know, and it's thick and fast, and like you're traveling 6 hours to play a 90-minute game.
Yeah.
Like you think about that, you're a Champions League team effectively.
Yeah, that should be that should be the NWSL slogan. NWSL, thick and fast.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 6 hours on a plane, 90-minute game.
6 hours on a 90-minute game. I like that one too. We got something here.
But it's so exciting. It's the most competitive league in the world. Like the fans are incredible. Like we sold out stadiums like constantly, and they really got behind the team. They're incredible, and you know, I'm proud of what I achieved. You know, we went through a little blip. Do I think I could have turned it around? Yeah, absolutely.
How did you emotionally have a child in college, play, and like make it to the league?
Okay, so when I went to college, I liked soccer, but I was more so just happy to like be free from control of like my parents and my family. And when I got pregnant, the summer before my junior year, and then had Caden, I think having him, it was a huge deal. And it was a very difficult pregnancy and experience, but like it realigned me and refocused me to what I wanted. So I didn't really want to become a pro until after I had him.
Wow.
And it was more so the idea of like people being like, you're not going to be able to play soccer again. Like you're just going to have to get a job, made me like want to keep playing soccer.
Wow.
I was like, actually, hell no, I'm going to do what the I want to do here.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I actually saw my college coach last night, which was weird because she saw Caden and she was like, wait, he used to be this big.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but yeah. So did I answer your question? No, I don't even.
You did. And so like when you said like going through your pregnancy and the birth was really difficult, like what was like, if you don't mind sharing what was difficult about it, and like what was the relationship between that and football?
It was difficult because when I told my team, my parents, the school that I was going to go through with this pregnancy and have a child, I just didn't have support.
Wow.
And I definitely was like looked at as just like a fool that, you know, like, what is she doing? And people didn't believe in me. And I mean, like, fast forward, like now I look at it and I'm like, having a strong support system is the only thing that can get you through as a person, but as an athlete, like you need a support system. And I found that in my fiance and my family. Like Mike was the first person that just came in and was like, you want to do something, you can do it. There's nothing that's going to stop you. So like I felt like I didn't really find success and happiness and belief in myself until I really had that support system.
You are so much more than a football player. Like even at such a young age, I feel like you have real purpose to why you play football. Like you use words like inspire and representation when you spoke about like why you play football and what it means to you.
Yeah.
And you're already thinking about the next generation. You're writing a children's book. I'm like, wait,
how old are you? You're 23? Like, this is so cool. Like, to be thinking about, like, what you can do to inspire the next generation at 23 years old is really, like, inspirational for us. Like, tell us, like, where did that spirit come from? Like, what are you up to, like, outside of your rehab?
Yeah. I think it came from, like I said, when I was a kid, like, I'm trying to, like, look for, like, my idol, like who I like. For example, you. Like, if you had merch, I would have bought it. Like, like if you had a podcast, if you said something, like I would have heard, you know what I'm saying? So I think now with the exposure of social media, how easy it is to access different platforms and reach a wide group of people. I'm going to use that because I know how it feels when you're young to not really have a role model and someone that you can actually, like, hey, not just like a footballer, but like, what does she believe in? Why does she play the way that she plays? And where does her inspiration come from? And maybe even like the decisions that she makes in her life, like what drives her? So I think that now I'm at the age where, you know, I have a following base. I have little kids doing like the Big Fish Celly. And I feel like I have like a responsibility to show a bit more of myself than the footballer.
So what was that process like for you to get that opportunity to even play for Mexico? Because you didn't have the traditional path in terms of like club football. And then you basically, you went to college, you went to Idaho.
Yeah.
And then you did your final year at Santa Clara. Is that correct? And so at what point did you like kind of get into that pipeline of the Mexican national team?
Yeah, so it's a funny story because I was at Idaho State. Like, it was the only school that recruited me because it's 20 minutes away from my house in Idaho. And we had a recruit that played for the U17s from Mexico in their World's Cup, and we were recruiting her for Idaho State. She's a goalkeeper. She plays in the Mexican League now. So it's just like funny thinking about it. And I remember like when I hear that, I was like, wow, this is insane. Like, I get to meet somebody that plays for Mexico. Like, I was so excited. Like, it was the craziest thing ever. Like, there's still a picture on my Instagram. I never take these things down because I just think it's funny. But I was like, just met the U17 goalkeeper from Mexico, like put a picture of, like, I was so excited. And at that time, since it's winters in Idaho and you can't play outside, we would practice indoor. And she saw me and she's like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, how are you not playing for the national team? And I was like, well, how? Like, please tell me, how do I do that? And I'll gladly take whatever opportunity I can. And she's like, that's insane. Like, you could easily be playing for Mexico, because she knew that's what I wanted to do. And funny enough, 2 days later, she texts my coach, Idaho State. She says, there's tryouts in LA in 2 days. Maria should go. And I was like, oh, like, it was the opportunity. I was like, absolutely, I need to be there. And I remember telling my parents, and at first, because I mean, college, there's no money. Like, I had to get to LA, but I was like, I have to drive there because an airplane, like, ticket would be too much. And at first I told my parents, like, if they could help me out getting here, and they were like, no, like, I don't think, like, that's already a different level. And I was like, guys, like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, I feel like I can do something if I go there. And they were just like, no. I was like, okay. I had a 99 Honda Civic, like, stick shift. And I was like, okay, I'm driving. Like, yeah, I was like, I'm going to be there. Like, I don't care what you guys do. Yeah. And it's like funny looking back now, because I'm like, you were insane. Like, how I was just like, I don't care. I'm going to go. And thankfully, my sister took days off of work, and she took me in her car. So we drove 12 hours to LA. I tried out, and then a month later, I made the national team. Wow. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy. But I'm like, if I didn't take that opportunity, like, I probably wouldn't be where I am, because that was what I needed. Like, that was perfect timing. Like, everything was so perfect.
Cool. And it's a hard thing. And I think, like, an alternate on a winning team actually represents something that's really human. It's like the fact that there's space for all emotions and it's not easy. And I know when you are on the roster and you do score the goal, it's still not just this joyous thing where you're like, I've done everything I dreamed, and I sit back. You know, it's always the anxiousness of, can I do it again? Or what about tomorrow? Or am I going to be forgotten? And I think that like that part of the story is just as beautiful. Like the part of your story where you go back to your room and you cry or you're disappointed. I think that's important and it's beautiful. And it's a short story that I share. I think almost every world championship I played, I would say, were the hardest weeks of my life. And not just because I was working really hard, which I was, but because I was caught in a mixture of joy and pride and fear and vulnerability that I think are the real Olympic story.
And I think that really just like dives into just like you are a human first, and like obviously like we want to freaking win trophies, we want to win every world title that we could possibly win, but like that happiness is temporary. Like it lasts literally that night, and then you're like, all right, what's next?
Now
like
what?
Now what? So like you don't want, you know, like you to be defined by your performance, or if you played, or you know what you said, or like like those moments are big, but they don't define who you are. And like I feel like that's something that I'm even still navigating. Like just because you didn't score don't mean you suck. Like you could have a bad game, you could have a great game and still not score. Like it's just like a mind shift of being like, okay, like I am human and like I am a person first, and like soccer is what I do, but it's not what defines me. And it's going to give me the platform.
Lesson in the world. I'm 35 and I still have to scream so loud in my head, it's okay that I didn't score. You still have some value on this earth.
It's just like one of those like cringe moments. You're just like, I just like that feeling is just no, like there's no better feeling for an attacker, but it's also just like you got to like bring it back and just be like, this is what you do, girl.
I also feel like Emma, like going back to like her saying like you have value here, like it has nothing to do with you being on the field. Like that would be great, but you have value here.
Tight.
Like you're needed. You know, this is your first world championship, and you're kind of like, I was supposed to be playing, and no, I'm not, and like this is kind of weird, but like what am I supposed to do? You know, what choice do I have? And for her to like actually see you, not be so concerned about everything happening on the field and making sure those 11 players are firing, but being able to see each person in that environment and be like, look, this is probably really, really hard, but like you have value here and you're needed, I think is really powerful words.
And I think that she could have easily been drowned in the tactics. Like I feel like that's normal, and I would have been like, normal. Cool, like I wouldn't have thought twice about it. But I think that's really just like a testament to like the person that she is. Like she really treats us like humans and like makes sure that like we are okay, and like that ultimately is going to translate to the field if like we're all happy and playing with joy and playing with freedom, like, you know, we're a tight-knit group, like you know, like those things really like make teams champions.
Why is it important for women to make money?
Ooh.
Go ahead, babe.
Money in the world we live in is access, is power, is having a show like this. I mean, money does matter. Unfortunately it matters. But in the world that we live in, I just think that why not? The way things have been going feels like hasn't been necessarily working in the world. Like, why don't we shift things a little bit? Like, let's just like do an experiment.
Ooh, I love experiments.
And give all the women the money and like and the power, i.e.
some influence would be nice.
And like let's see what happens. It would be an interesting experiment, I think.
Wow. And in a different way, when you guys talk about the thing is not gendered, but the middleman is gendered, the middleman between women and money is so different than the middleman between men and money. Everything with men is invest, lead. Everything with women is like, don't buy the latte. Don't, it's like, the difference between investing and building for men and saving and scarcity for women is so, it's so opposite. You know, it's like Well, it's the same with everything with writing. It's my colleagues, counterparts who are men, write the same books as I do, but my book is self-help and theirs is in the leadership aisle.
True story. True
Always.
story.
Wow.
Don't dislike.
Because women are a problem to be solved.
Wow.
We're just a mess and we need help. But men are cool. They just need opportunity to lead, right?
Wow.
So you won't see a guy who's doing my thing be in self-help. It's non-existent.
Wow.
Same with money. Like we need conversations about investing, about power, about, we don't need more about saving. Like we can do that. We've got that down.
Wow. So we just need a Glenn Doyle book.
Yes.
A leadership book
Yes.
on money.
Yeah,
On
or
money.
just the
On how
medium.
money is funny.
Yeah.
On how money is funny.
Well, I mean, I think that I say this all the time. It's my favorite thing. The financial liberation of women is the social liberation of women. And so much of
That's
the
good.
hardship that little girls face just from day one is just simply coming from this idea of who is allowed to make money and who is allowed to do what they want and who has like an assigned role, right? And we know what the impact is. And I think that's why while on the national team, we spent our careers, double doing jobs. And the second one was just to get paid. And it was so awkward because we were asking to get paid. That's it. Awkward. It was really, really awkward.
It's amazing.
And we almost had to say like, oh, it's for the next generation. It's for the future because it's like not okay for women to want to get paid.
And there was a moment in our pay equity lawsuit where we were being patronized on why we couldn't get paid. And it was, well, what about the youth teams? Like, if you guys get this much money, like, the youth teams are going to suffer. And what about the Paralympic team? If you guys get money, the Paralympic teams. And honestly, when you start thinking about that, like, especially like women, the next generation, you're like, you're right.
Yeah.
Take all my money.
Yeah.
And it took like a really, like, actually it was an unlearning to be like,
Absolutely.
this has nothing to do with that.
That's right.
That's right.
And that was really hard. It was more, it wasn't even so much the learnings, it was the unlearnings. Like the things that we had accepted about ourselves and our worth and our value and what was our purpose as professional athletes. That our purpose as professional athletes wasn't the simple form of playing a sport and getting paid, but it was like, what else are you doing?
Oh, God. When my books, she knows, when my books started to do well and I started to become successful, I found myself every single time anyone would talk to me in an interview about any measure of success I had, I would immediately go into my nonprofit work. Like I would just start going, and then I do a lot of things for people. And like it just, and I thought, oh my God, we do not have a culture where a woman can do well without doing good.
Oh.
Like I was basically asking permission, still like me because I'm also a martyr.
Yeah.
Like the men's team, nobody was saying to them, what about the children? Right? The idea that every child is a woman's responsibility, even in sports.
Yeah.
A lot to unlearn.
Want more of the recap show? Never miss an episode by subscribing on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.